Guys, I'm worried for Khamzat Chimaev. And this is not going to be a prediction video, but I'm just going to say what I'm concerned about when it comes to Khamzat's next fight against Dricus Du Plessis. I am really worried that Khamzat Chimaev is headed into a fight where he may not win. Okay, let's just be honest here, guys. There is serious cause for concern, because if Khamzat Chimaev does something different in this fight, if Khamzat Chimaev goes out there with a different approach, it's an indication that he is already mentally defeated. And I'm going to explain what I mean. Now, this is not a prediction video, but I'm going to tell you guys why you should be worried if you're a Khamzat fan. Okay? A lot of people are riding the Khamzat train. The guy is so dominant, it just would make sense for someone like that to have a belt when it's all said and done. But I don't know if he's going to have the storybook ending here. I don't know if he is going to get his hand raised, get the belt wrapped around him. Some people are talking about this guy maybe retiring if he wins the belt. Dude, he may have to wait a couple of years because Khamzat and his team are in a very tough position. Okay, they're up against it. Dricus Du Plessis is no joke. He's got just about everything that could pose an issue to just about anyone who's elite in the middleweight division. He's a power puncher. He's a volume striker. He's explosive. He's strong. He's got great cardio. He doesn't slow down. As rounds progress in his fights, he just amps it up. And on top of all of that, he's well-rounded. He is a good grappler. And so Khamzat and his team have to make a decision, okay? There's a decision that needs to be made. There's two paths. Unlike what you're seeing on screen, where one path leads to nothing but good things, both paths could lead to good things, but both paths could equally lead to horrible demises for Khamzat Chimaev. And this is the nature of this fight. This is why I'm so worried for Khamzat. There's only two options, and that must be very stressful for Khamzat and his team. Choosing whether or not to go in with option one, the extremely aggressive style that Khamzat has always implemented, where in the first 10 seconds of his fights, he level changes, runs across the octagon, and puts everything into trying to get a submission in the first round. That's option one, aggressive Khamzat. That's the one that we always see. That's the one that got him to the dance. Or does he take option two, path number two? Does he change his style and be patient, bide time, focus on the fact that this is a 5-rounder and things could go wrong and I want to have my energy in those championship rounds? Well, either way, Dricus just needs to show up. Dricus is not in the same predicament. Now, that's not to say that Dricus Du Plessis can't have a bad game plan, which could cost him a fight. It's not to say that the game plan doesn't matter, but Dricus, on the other hand, is not in the same stressful position where he has to make that crucial decision, right? Because Dricus, I mean, listen, he just has to show up to the press conference, make a couple of wisecracks, and he's got to show up to the fight as a tricky customer. And that's always, good enough for Du Plessis. I'm not concerned because, again, there's many options for Dricus Du Plessis. Because for Khamzat, how he starts this fight is absolutely everything. It's all going to rest on how Khamzat Chimaev starts the fight, meaning what he does in the first minute, the first 2 minutes. That's everything. Now, you may say, well, No, it isn't every fighter. No, it isn't every fighter. Plenty of fighters, they can go out there and bide time in the first round. That's actually most fighters' style, to bide time and make reads in the first round. For Khamzat Chimaev, his style is all gas, no brakes, 100% sprint mode. And should Khamzat try something new for the first time in his entire career in a title fight where it's all on the line, the stakes are greater than ever before, does he change things up? Because as I said, if he changes things up, that's Khamzat going in there mentally defeated. Some people think Khamzat Chimaev should take a different approach. Khabib specifically thinks Khamzat Chimaev should change his style. And this is a quote from Khabib. Khabib says, "Personally, I would advise Khamzat to strike with him. If I were coaching, I would give him different advice. If you put them straight boxing, brother, Khamzat is better, brother."
Вот чисто по боксу пустых, Хамзат лучше.
That's a Khabib Nurmagomedov quote. So Khabib is saying, listen, Khamzat Chimaev starts every single fight, guns blazing, and this is a 5-rounder. And he doesn't think Khamzat should rely on a style where you're relying on a first round blitzkrieg kind of finish against someone as well-rounded with the cardio, gas tank, strength of Dricus Du Plessis, right? Who's got that ability to impose his will for 5 rounds. Khabib saying, go out there and box. Khabib actually thinks that Khamzat Chimaev is a better boxer. He said that in an interview. But can Khamzat really get the better of Dricus on the feet? Let's say Khamzat starts the fight and actually takes that advice and maybe see if he can chin Dricus Du Plessis, right? Well, we know Khamzat Chimaev is very, very powerful. We know he's got some pop, but, listen, Dricus Du Plessis was able to take rounds off of Israel Adesanya in the striking. He won the first round against Izzy where it was only striking, right? He ultimately won the fight. And then in his last outing, he was able to shut down the best defensive striker in the middleweight division in Sean Strickland. And that was quite a feat. I mean, listen, it's one thing to win a round off of Adesanya. It's another thing to damn near 50-45 someone that is as hard to hit as Sean Strickland. And Dricus Du Plessis, with that sloppy-boppy style, actually didn't look so sloppy-boppy in that fight against Sean Strickland. It actually looked like he had improved quite a bit. And, again, beat the shit out of Strickland, one of the best strikers in the middleweight division. Again, Khamzat, we know he's got KO power. We know he's got that KO power. But here's the thing. Because it's possible that Khamzat could plant a bomb on Dricus Du Plessis. He's very explosive. He's big. He's strong. But let's say he goes out there and takes a more patient approach where he's going to pick his shots and sort of slow things down a bit. Well, what happens if a couple of minutes into the fight, Dricus Du Plessis, with his ability to impose his will, starts forcing Khamzat to throw some combinations? And the next thing you know, we're a couple of minutes in the first round, and Khamzat Chimaev has already expended a decent amount of energy that will take away from his ability to be as explosive as he could have been in the first 10 seconds of the fight. Now, all of a sudden, Khamzat maybe spends 3 minutes striking with Dricus Du Plessis. Okay, he's swung and he's missed a couple of times. And it's like, all right. Now it's time to go for the first takedown. Now it's time to initiate the first grappling exchange. But wait a second. Now you're operating at 90% capacity. Going for that first takedown, you no longer are going into that first grappling exchange at 100%. With all of the strength, explosivity, speed that you would have had if you went for it in the first 10 seconds. Now you're only operating at 90% capacity. That 10% that you're losing headed into that first grappling exchange, well, that makes it easier, a whole lot easier, for Dricus Du Plessis to survive. Should Khamzat risk shooting his first takedown after having already expended energy on the feet? I don't know. I don't know if that's such a good idea. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm very concerned about when it comes to Khamzat Chimaev, specifically when it comes to his grappling, if he were to start the fight taking a striking first approach or a patient approach, assuming he's going to expend a little bit of energy before that first grappling exchange. When Khamzat grapples, after having already expended energy, he's much less effective. For example, we can look at the Kamaru Usman fight in the second and the third round. So this is after round 1, where Khamzat Chimaev took down Kamaru Usman with the all gas, no brakes approach. And he beat the crap out of Usman, almost finished him, almost choked him out, landed lots of good ground and pound shots. And Usman essentially looked like the only thing he could have done is survive. He had no chance to get back up to his feet. But in the second and third round, when Khamzat landed his takedowns, he wasn't anywhere near as effective at landing ground and pound shots, and he wasn't getting close to submissions. It looked a lot more like Khamzat Chimaev was a typical grappler. Suppose you were to blur out all of Khamzat Chimaev's past grappling performances in the UFC, and you were to have to show it to MMA fans to see if they could identify who it was. I guarantee you most hardcore MMA fans right away are going to say, that's Khamzat Chimaev. It doesn't matter if he's blurred out. Doesn't matter if I can't see his face. The name is blurred out. That's Khamzat Chimaev. I can tell just by seeing how aggressive his style is, just how early he's shooting that first takedown and how he's mauling people, putting together ground and pound with submissions and all of this stuff. Whereas if you were to blur out Khamzat in round 2 and round 3 against Usman, for those grappling exchanges, I don't know if MMA fans are going to be able to identify that that's Khamzat Chimaev. It looked like a pretty normal grappler, right? They're thinking, man, maybe that's Mateusz Gamrot getting 20 seconds of half guard time control until the fighter underneath gets back up to their feet. That's the point that I'm trying to make, because in round 3, Khamzat Chimaev took down Kamaru Usman, and it wasn't like, oh, Usman's totally hopeless. Fight the hands, Usman. Fight the hands. Don't let him bully you, son. It wasn't that. It was, here comes Kamaru. He's getting back up to his feet. There he is. And he's out on his feet. And they're back at range and they're striking again. And now, if this is Dricus Du Plessis and he's getting up to his feet, you're in danger, because Dricus Du Plessis is going to come moving forward, chugging along like a train, and he's going to put it on you. He's going to start landing the kicks. He's going to start landing the Superman punches. He's going to start landing the Captain Underman blitzes. And that's dangerous for Khamzat Chimaev. And so the point that I'm making is, listen, Khamzat is so good when he comes out the gates, guns blazing. There's that takedown that he shot on Robert Whittaker. Look how low he gets to the ground, right? And is able to get underneath his opponent's underhooks and just fucking steamrolls them. And here's Whittaker talking about how amazing that shot from Khamzat was. How, he was prepared for it, but when it actually happened, there was nothing he could have done to stop it. Like, he did everything in his power to prepare for a wrestler that's going to be aggressive, but when it actually happened, he was hopeless. And so my concern is, if Khamzat doesn't sprint, his grappling, it's nowhere near as dangerous. And the finishing threat that he poses on the ground drops off of a cliff. All right? Because essentially, what makes Khamzat so good is his sprinting style. That's what makes him so excellent. You see how he just goes out there, he runs at people, he picks them up, he slams them down. And it's because he has the perfect combination of strength, speed, explosivity, and grappling technique. Those 4 things together, okay? Those 4 things, not just one or the other. It's the grappling technique with the speed at which he's able to carry it out, with the strength. And there are some very strong grapplers that have great technique, but it's rare that they also have that speed, that explosivity that Khamzat has as well. It's the most overwhelming kind of grappling style to face in MMA. I mean, listen, you have some other phenomenal grapplers in mixed martial arts, like Islam Makhachev. I would say Islam Makhachev has unbelievable grappling technique, extremely strong. He's kind of explosive, but I wouldn't say he's anywhere near as fast as Khamzat Chimaev. Like, Makhachev, he can submit you pretty quickly, but is he as good at manipulating you and getting you into that horrible position via just bullying you into it? Or is he better at catching you with the submission where you fuck up and he's able to capitalize on it? I think he's better at that. Whereas Khamzat, his grappling technique with his strength, with the speed, it's so overwhelming. He can kind of bully you into the position he wants you to be in. And he can just, again, he bullies you into these submissions with fucking technique. It's insane. And so, essentially, I think he may be better off chasing a first-round submission, even if he risks gassing out badly. Because what's the alternative? Okay? I would say Khamzat Chimaev, if he puts everything into that first round submission, he's got a decent chance at getting it. Whereas, what happens if Khamzat Chimaev doesn't chase after the first round submission, fucks around on the feet for a couple of minutes, shoots that takedown, and all of a sudden, instead of operating at 100% capacity, ready for 5 solid minutes of a sprint, right, where it's so difficult for his opponent to not get submitted, now going into that first takedown, he's not going to have 100%, he's going to have 85%. And maybe it's just a little bit easier for the opponent to survive. And he shoots that takedown a couple of minutes into the first round. Now his opponent doesn't have to survive for 5 minutes. They just have to survive for 3. And that's a little bit easier. It's an easier task. And the thing is, man, I also worry about the mentality for Khamzat. I really worry about it because, listen, Khamzat Chimaev's style is perfect for his mentality. His mentality is perfect for his style. When Khamzat Chimaev goes into that cage and they're announcing him, he's running around the octagon, he's screaming, right? He's amped up. And then he looks at you like this, and then he runs across the octagon. He's thinking, man, nobody on this planet can stop me. I don't give a fuck about, managing my cardio, right? It's a 5-rounder, it's a 3-rounder. No. He's going to go out there to try to bulldoze you. He's going out there like a hitman, trying to take you out instantly. And he thinks he can do it every single time. What if he goes in with the little patient Khamzat approach? Like this. Does he go in like this? Now listen, this is actually Khamzat at a pre-fight press conference before he smoked Robert Whittaker, but this is the press conference where he's like this. My point is, does Khamzat go into the cage like this? Where he's like, because Khabib, it's easy for Khabib to talk because Khabib had a phenomenal gas tank and he could push a crazy pace that was good for 5 rounds, but Khamzat's gas tank is not as good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Khamzat Chimaev has a terrible gas tank because I don't think it's terrible, but let's be honest, he doesn't have a great gas tank, right? He's not Merab. Now, it's unfair to compare people to Merab, but he's not Khabib. He's not one of these Anthony Hernandez types that like kind of remains the same every single round or only drops off slightly. Khamzat Chimaev drops off substantially after the first round. And I mean, that's not surprising because of his style, but the point that I'm making is if Khamzat goes in like this, buy time on the feet, brother, buy time on the feet. If he goes out there with the Khabib approach, Khabib saying Khamzat's got better hands. Now, listen, I think Khamzat Chimaev, he's got tons of power in his hands. He's a former welterweight. He's going to have, because he's so explosive in general and so fast in general, he can beat Dricus to the punch early. He can maybe knock him out. It's possible. But Dricus is very tough. Dricus is very tough. And does Khamzat, with his skill set, knowing how lethal he is, does him and his team, do they want to disregard just how much of a weapon this guy is with his usual approach to try something brand new? Whereas I said earlier on in this video, it's minute number 3 in the first round. You've landed a couple of big strikes on Dricus. Even if you've not expended a lot of energy, even if you're not gassed or getting close to being gassed, you've expended energy. Now the thought of getting the finish and shooting the takedown, it's building in your head. Just the idea of that thought alone is not as conducive to getting someone out of there like the thought of him where he's thinking, I kill everybody, nobody can stop me in the first round. That mentality is so good for Khamzat, dude. That mentality is so lethal. There's no doubting. There's no second guessing. Him going in with a patient approach, just by the nature of being patient, you're worried about the 5 rounds. You're worried about the championship rounds. You're worried that you can't get the finish. It's an indication of doubting yourself to begin with in a way. It's like going into the fight, in a way, already kind of defeated. That's a problem. If you're a Khamzat fan, that's a problem. So you're either really worried for Khamzat because if he can't get the finish in the first round, things are not looking good at all. Okay? with his usual aggressive approach. I mean, if he can't get the finish in the first round and he goes out guns blazing, things are not looking good. He's got 4 more rounds with Dricus. Whereas if he takes the other approach, him and his team have decided we're not good enough to get Dricus out of there. We're not good enough. Not necessarily, but we're not good enough to get Dricus Du Plessis out of there in the first round. We got to play the long game. Dricus is too good. He's too good for what we normally do. I don't like that shit. I don't like that for Khamzat. It's doubting himself. It's going into a fight thinking, I can't finish this guy early, man. I'm going to have to bide my time and outcraft him and outsmart him and outthink him. Dude, you can't do that. Khamzat Chimaev needs to be Khamzat Chimaev, in my opinion. Now, again, when I say you can't do that, I don't really mean that. It's possible that Khamzat could win with a different approach. It's very possible. It's just that we haven't seen it. But as I said, if he does take that all gas, no brakes approach that he usually takes, and he goes for the finish in the first round, the potential downside, even though I think he has a better chance to win if he fights the way he normally does, the potential downside is a lot more brutal. Like, if he were to lose by being, the more patient guy, right? Maybe suffering due to paralysis of analysis, where he goes out there with the beakers and test tubes, and maybe he loses a decision, gets beat up a little bit. But if he goes the all gas, no brakes approach, the way he's going to lose is going to be by getting brutally finished, I think. Like, Dricus Du Plessis has a good chance to, in the third round, really start breaking him, and maybe we see a finish in the third or the fourth. Whereas I think, he takes the patient approach, his chances to win, less so, right? His chances to get finished, they're also less, but it's like, I don't know, man. This is a bad place to be for Khamzat. This is a very tricky situation. And it's just a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on his shoulders and his coach's shoulders going into this because, of course they're thinking about this. And as I said earlier, for Dricus is going to have his game plan. Dricus is going to be, practicing fighting the hands and training and, dealing with people that are trying to choke him out. But as I said, Dricus just kind of needs to show up, man. Impose his will. That's what he does. Survive on the ground and impose your will. Whereas Khamzat, he's got to make a decision early on. Am I going to go all gas, no brakes while I'm at 100% capacity? Because this is the only time I'm going to be at 100%. It's only going to be in the first round, the first 10 seconds, first 30 seconds. After a couple punches have been thrown, a couple kicks have been thrown, a couple of physical exchanges, maybe a half-assed takedown. Good luck. Good luck bulldozing Dricus Du Plessis with the way that you've bulldozed people in the past. It's going to be harder. Good luck trying to get him out of there when you're operating at 80%. It's going to be harder. Maybe Khamzat can still get a submission in the second, third round if he's operating at a consistent 80% capacity. But I just think it's really difficult against a guy like Dricus Du Plessis, who is always moving forward, has some of the best heavy pressure in MMA. Like, he's constantly putting it on you and making you work, and he's throwing so many different techniques. You don't know what's coming in your direction. Could be one of those off-speed question mark kicks. It could be a Captain Underpants blitz. It could be one of his, jumping knees, or one of Dricus Du Plessis spinning back fists. There's so much going on. He's sort of overwhelming your nervous system by just freaking ramming into you and shoving you around. He's like a more striking, heavy, powerful version of Merab in a way. And I don't think Khamzat can have this patient approach. I don't think Dricus will allow that. I think Dricus will tag him a couple of times, piss him off, and Khamzat's going to start fighting with his ego because, Khamzat's a savage. And some fighters are just like that. And I'm like, dude, I don't think it's the best idea to fight against that instinct, dude. Do what works for you. You have boxers back in the day that were really successful. They just saw red. Tony Tompkins was a guy that went out there just straight up saw red. He was sort of like the Chris Lieben of old school boxing. And I remember when Marty Lewis was fighting him in the build up to the Marty Lewis fight, dude, people were telling Marty Lewis, dude, you know, maybe change your style up, you know, let the hate and make him play, you know, do the 50 Cent quote, man, even though that song hadn't come out for many years. But it's like, you know, don't switch the style up, let him hate and watch the money pile up. And I remember, man, Marty Lewis, he used to say, I'm not switching my style up. I'm going to go in there, thinking man's game, pop the jab on him, sweep piece special, rip to the body, do what I do. Duffel shuffle. And people were telling him, dude, you got to fight fire with fire in this one. But I was like, man, I don't know. I don't think Khamzat Chimaev should switch it up, dude. I don't think he should switch it up. I think he should stay true to himself. But again, this is why I'm worried, and I'm going to wrap it up. You switch it up. I'm sorry, Khabib. Unless Khamzat KOs Dricus in the first round, Dricus has such a good way of imposing his will and forcing people to expend their energy. Khamzat is not going to be able to have the, you know, couple of slow striking exchanges, slow it down, and then midway through every round, get the takedown and hold on to it. And that's going to be the extent. Couple of striking exchanges, takedown, hold on to it. Dricus makes it a sloppy dogfight every time. That's not going to happen. Okay? The alternative is if he goes all gas, no brakes, and he hasn't finished every single truly elite fighter. He didn't finish Kamaru Usman, didn't finish Gilbert Burns. I know Gilbert Burns is a wizard on the ground. It's going to be easier to finish Dricus Du Plessis compared to Gilbert Burns on the ground. But the point that I'm making is if he doesn't get the finish in the first round, it really gets bad for him. Like I'm telling you, I think if he goes all gas, no brakes, those last few seconds, when you hear, if you're rooting for Khamzat, you hear the indication that there's only 10 more seconds in the round, you're going to be sweating bullets. Every single Khamzat fight, the 5 minutes are the most stressful 5 minutes for anyone, no matter who you're rooting for. You're rooting for Khamzat, it's stressful because you're like, dude, if he doesn't get this finish, we're screwed, or things are going to get real bad for us. Whereas if you're rooting for his opponent, you're sweating bullets when Khamzat gets the takedown, and you're like, shit, dude, 4 minutes with Khamzat. Oh, man, that's a lot of time for Khamzat to work. And you're like, man, please, can we just get out of this round? Those 5 minutes are always stressful, no matter who you're rooting for. But I'm telling you, man, if Dricus Du Plessis can get out of that first round and Khamzat goes all gas, no brakes, I think he's getting finished. And I think it's going to be a beatdown, like a bad one. But I'm worried, man. I'm worried. I don't know what decision he's going to make. On one hand, you take the patient approach, man, maybe you leave a little bit more unscathed. You take the other approach, dude, your chances of getting a glorious victory, a great finish, first round submission, they're pretty good, but you don't get it, and things are not looking good. So I'd imagine this is a very stressful decision for Khamzat and his team. Again, first time he's in a 5-rounder. Well, I don't know. I think the Kevin Holland fight may have been a 5-rounder. Oh, no, that was it a 3-rounder? Either way, it didn't go past the first round, but this is the first like title fight for Khamzat, and they're thinking about 5 rounds. And they're talking about this exact thing that I'm talking about in this video. So it's very interesting, and I wanted to make a video about this. This fight is very fascinating. Again, I haven't made up my mind and figured out who I'm picking, but it's a lot to think about, guys. Lighter man skill may play a part in my prediction, but we will see. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.